Yo, Elliot. We got a real good question from our buddy Tadal. Tadal Asfaha, which I think that's his real name. It's a pretty cool name, man. I think that's like African or something. It's pretty dope. And he says that my butt is really pronounced. And yes, I do have a bird chest. So basically, let me show you. It's going to be important that you get a visual for what's happening here with Tadal as I describe how I'm going to help him. Because I know a lot of you guys have this, it's called a hyperlordosis, but it's actually a layered dysfunction of a lower and upper cross syndrome. What that means is that he's got kind of like this butt sticking out thing, and then the upper body does this. And of course, I'm exaggerating, but it's not only unattractive, right? It doesn't look very cool with that extra hyperlordosis and then the caved chest. Not only does it just not look cool because conceptually it just doesn't look strong, but it's really it's a indication of many different things going on, and a person with a sensitive eye will look at you and can point out what's exactly going on. And Elliott Hulse has developed multiple layers of strength that need to be considered with regard to becoming the strongest version of yourself. And I can tell you right now that the three major layers that we often talk about on this channel, which is neuromuscular, physiological, and energetic, are working in concert to give you this fucked up posture, right? Excuse my French, but I know that you're not happy with it, and I want to support you with some ideas that will help you. So I will afford you the very first and most superficial response, the one that most people will give you. In fact, this is the one that most people already are giving you, and the shit don't work, right? So they're telling you, you just need to stretch your hip flexors, bro. Just stretch your pec minor. Just stretch your shoulders. Just stretch. Stretching and strengthening is great. It's awesome. But remember that it is on the surface. What's happening muscularly is an expression of what's happening physiologically and energetically. So those two layers need to be considered. You could stretch and strengthen your ass off, but if physiologically you're damaged and energetically you're damaged, you'll continue to fight this battle of having to stretch and strengthen in order to get your body to look the way it should. So I'm assuming that you've already got the right, and if you don't have the right stretches and exercises to do to correct that neuromuscularly, search my channel. I've got tons of video on this channel about correcting your posture, both upper and lower cross syndrome. Very briefly, it's a matter of stretching the pecs, usually the bicep, sternocleidomastoid, strengthening there's gotta be like something going on here. The helicopters and shit. Strengthening the adductors of the scapula. You know, a good exercise would be like front squats or prone cobras to strengthen the muscles in the upper back, right? To pull your shoulders back. Then with your hips, right? Let me show you. Right? Can you see my hips? Then with your hips, it's stretching your hip flexors and strengthening your hamstrings and also strengthening your abdominals. Those will all help support you here. In fact, with regard to the stretches, if you just use the different variations of my bow stretch, right? The upper body will look like this, and upper body bow will look like this, or like that, and then a lower body bow, right, for you to be able to breathe into your balls, looks more like this, right? Hands on your butt. So you can stretch all the muscles properly and deepen your breath also, deepen your breathing capacity by stretching all those muscles, and that I would invite you to do that daily. But what's going on physiologically that's causing this hyperlordosis? What's happening at a deeper level? Oftentimes, the weakness in the lower abdominals that's associated with the tipping forward of the hips, because you got to remember that your deep abdominal wall, your transversus abdominis, these muscles right in here, look, muscles right in here. If you pull your belly in, right, you pull your belly in, it's associated with tucking your butt under, right? So as these muscles weaken, look what happens there. It's the muscles in here that do this, that tuck your butt under by pulling your belly in, that's associated with pulling that ass back under you so it's not hanging out in Timbuktu. Those muscles are on the same neurological loop. Basically, the nervous system the electric system that's running through those muscles also run through your colon, right? They're on the same loop. They work together in concert. And I've described this phenomenon of viscerosomatic inhibition to you before, where basically if there is a inflammation in the viscera, the muscles associated with it, the muscles on the same neurological loop, shut off and go to sleep. They just don't fucking work, right? We know that this is very evident because doctors will tell you if your left arm goes numb, what do you expect is happening? Heart attack, right? What the fuck does your left arm have to do with your heart? Same neurological loop, dudes, right? The stabilizers of your pelvis, your deep abdominal wall, your transversus abdominis, and your pelvic floor, the muscles that work when you suck your belly in, are in the same loop as your colon. And if your colon's irritated, and most people's colons are inflamed because they're eating processed foods or they're eating too much gluten or other foods that they're intolerant to, they're taking medications, they're drinking too much alcohol. There are a myriad of reasons why the colon would be inflamed, shutting off the stabilizers of the pelvis, deep abdominal wall, right? So you can stretch your ass off. You can stretch and strengthen, but there's no neurological, there's inhibition, there's motor sensory inhibition, right? Amnesia. Those muscles just don't know what the fuck to do anymore. They forgot how to work. And they're shut off because there's no electricity running through it. Because you got to clean up your diet, right? So find out, are there foods that you're intolerant to? Are you eating a lot of processed food? The best way to see is like, what is your digestive health like? Do you have GERD? These people who have fucking acid reflux and shit like that, or are you always farting? Or you have diarrhea all the time? It's very simple to kind of just look at the symptoms that our body's giving us to see if there's a physiological dysfunction, right? So you'll know right away if you've got a problem there. So that's physiologically. You need to look at that. It's the second layer of strength. The third layer of strength that I want to offer you is energetically, and that's basically what's happening up here and how it's manifesting down here, right? And I'm not going to touch the upper body because I've spoken about, in this batch of videos that I've made, I've spoken about how there's pain associated with love lost. There's pain associated with inhibiting our ability to express love fully, right? That causes us to close down here. And it often manifests itself, and also poor self-esteem. I just don't feel, my personal will and self-power is just not as esteemed as it should be, right? So it's either solar plexus shutting down or heart shutting down, right? Giving you this, which, you know, it's a domino effect with your body, guys. Like, you do this, and that happens just to balance you out, right? So I'm not gonna talk about that because that's not where you came to me. You came to me for the issue with your lower body, and guess what? This is associated with the opposite of this. What do I look like I'm doing right now? Fucking, right? When you extend your hips, the extension of your hips is associated with bang, right? Now you've got two, throughout your entire body, your entire physiology, and everywhere in life, there are contrasts, but within your body, you've got charging and discharging, right? Watch me. Charge, discharge, charge, discharge, charge, discharge, right? I mean, it even happens when you're breathing. It happens in your heart, systole, diastole. Inhalation, exhalation. Charge, discharge. Your heart, charge, discharge. Now, you can get stuck in being excessively charged and not being able to discharge. Meaning, I'm a really sexual person, but I have some hang-ups about having sex. Maybe I feel guilty about it, or whatever the case may be. Maybe my mom made me feel guilty about sex. So you're really charged. You're a charged sexual dude, but you have an inhibition to letting that charge out. Boom. This just doesn't. And when you do that, look, guys, do that. Just do that. Just do that at home. Do this. Bang. I feel, the energy in my balls. I feel it in my dick. I feel pretty good when I do this. Boom, boom. Just go lay on your mattress and do this. It's associated with charging and discharging. Boom, boom. It feels good. Doesn't mean that you have an erection and that you're jerking off and shit like that. But the physical movement associated with gyrating the hips is charging and discharging. And it feels pretty good. But you might have hang-ups about feeling good. about yourself, and that's causing all the tension in your hips, not allowing you to discharge it. What is your sex like, bro? Who asked you that, right? Like, you come to me with a question about your hips being too anteriorly tilted, and I'm telling you that it's definitely manifesting itself in your sex life. I don't know if you just can't get girls because of the way your posture is, but if you do, you've probably got some hang-ups there, and you're not performing the way your potential would allow. So, I've offered different ideas with regard to bioenergetics. I'm not going to give you all that here in this, because you guys probably think I'm nuts already, so I won't give that all to you here right now. But the idea is, you got to get over this idea that sex is bad, and you got to let that shit out. Bang! Good luck, folks. Talk to you next time. Yo, Elliot!